if we pay extra, could we maybe get some grease or fat?
Okay, I find it interesting as I look at encyclopedia.com here on cooking oil. I was reading through the process on how it talks about the chemical extraction process that they use with solvents to extract oil, because in ancient times when they made things like olive oil, they only got about 10% of the yield they get these days. Well, these days they also heat them up to a much higher temperature than they used to back in those times, but they also use chemical solvents such as hexene to extract the chemicals from these plant seeds. Now that has allowed us to also get oils that we never were able to get at all before, because humans weren't able to extract oils from things like cottonseed. But through these processes that we use now, we are able to extract oil from these seeds, and that's how we've got Crisco, for example. It comes from cottonseed. So I saw this little section here, and I saw some wording that kind of threw me off, because I thought, this is an encyclopedia which is supposed to be giving you information, but it left some black holes in my understanding because it used some terminology that didn't make any sense. That was more jargon for the industry. So I decided to look up this information. Here's what I read. Soybeans are usually not pressed at all before solvent extraction because they have relatively little oil, but most oil seeds with more oil are pressed and solvent treated. After the initial oil has been recovered from the screw press, the oil cake remaining in the press is processed by solvent extraction to attain the maximum yield. A volatile hydrocarbon, most commonly hexane, dissolves the oil out of the oil cake, which is then recovered by distilling the light solvent out. This is the word that threw me off. The Knox rotocell is used to meet the demands of the United States soybean oil industry. Using this machine, flakes of meal are sent through the wedge-shaped cells of a cylindrical vessel. The solvent then passes through the matter to be collected at the bottom. Also still in use by a significant number of manufacturers is the Bowman or Hansa Mule unit. Now, that's another name that seems industry specific for the jargon. As a matter of fact, a manufacturer brand in which oilseed flakes are placed in perforated baskets that circulate continuously. So why bring these things up? They mean nothing without any specifics. So it seemed like it was really odd to mention these things out of the blue. And then I was looking for a website for KMEC engineering here. I found that they were using very similar wording as I started reading right here. The Knox rotocell is used to meet the demands of the edible oil industry. In using this machine, flakes of meal are sent through wedge-shaped cells of a cylindrical vessel. The solvent then passes through the matter to be collected at the bottom. Also still in use by a significant number of manufacturers is the Bowman or Hansa Mule unit, in which oilseed flakes are placed in perforated baskets that circulate continuously. Now, don't you find that interesting? It looks like they just copy and pasted this text from this manufacturing website and put it in the encyclopedia. When I had looked at this GenoPalette website, because I was interested in possibly doing some affiliate marketing with them, because I was intrigued by the idea of using my DNA test with 23andMe to get a DNA report that would talk about what I'm predisposed to want to eat, because it talked about the differences between protein and carb eaters. And I saw a few reports where people were more for carbohydrates, some people were a little stronger on protein, but all of the reports I saw recommended a genetic profile that required the eating of seed oils, some of which I don't think were in production throughout human history. So how can we be genetically predisposed to something that we haven't had access to until technology made it available? Seems a little sketchy to me. So I decided to leave GenoPalette alone, only because I'm afraid I would get the results, think it was pretty cool, but really know that ultimately it's kind of anecdotal and it's based on information that we really don't know what we're doing with yet. But that's just what I think about GenoPalette. What do you think? Have you had any experience with GenoPalette? Has it been something that you've tried and that you found that it was accurate or inaccurate? I'd like to hear from you about that so that I can find out if it's something that I should look into a little bit more, or do I just dismiss this as being something we're not really technologically ready to be able to discern, because our knowledge of genetics and our knowledge of nutrition both seem to be in their infant stages. I'm not 100% sure that a test like this can really give you a whole lot of helpful scientific data. At best, I think it's going to give you anecdotal data that's going to lean toward one bias or another. But, as I said, I could be wrong. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, have a great one.
If we pay extra, could we maybe get some grease or fat?